bring him into the main session?
Yeah. I am trying.
Dawn, we're ready on Davis.
All right, counsel, is Mr. Davis getting a trial date?
Yes, he is, Your Honor.
Okay.
Just a Zoom bench trial is all we're requesting.
All right. We're back on the live stream and the court is calling. Is it Michael Davis? Is that correct, sir?
Yes, Your Honor.
Dupree. All right, case number SP 120599131, Michael Stephen Davis. The charge is improper plates. Also new ticket SP 120595153, same defendant, expired plates. This is a date and time for pretrial in these matters. Mr. Davis.
Yes.
Please say your name, sir, for the record.
Michael Davis.
Thank you. And representing Mr. Davis is?
Good morning, Your Honor. Matthew Dupree. Oh, sorry, Judge. I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, that's all right. Matthew Dupree, P80132, attorney for Mr. Davis.
And Mr. Dupree, how do you wish to proceed today with Mr. Davis?
Judge, we will be demanding a Zoom bench trial, but before we set that date, I'll also note there's 4 civil infractions related to these 2 misdemeanors that were defaulted. They were defaulted erroneously. The misdemeanors did not go into warrant status. They were set for dates, but for some reason, the civil infractions did not tag along. And so we'd ask that the civil infractions all be lifted out of default. It's my understanding that the city doesn't have an objection.
And Tamika Horn on behalf of the city of Detroit. No objection, Your Honor.
All right, sir. Thank you. The record will so reflect, and those civil infractions, the default on those civil infractions will be set aside. All matters are scheduled for trial, and the date that we are giving for bench trial, counsel, is June 28, 2022. Bench trials are being scheduled for a Zoom connection. And you are consenting to that Zoom connection, is that right, Mr. Dupree?
Yes, Your Honor.
And is that date good for you and your client?
It is good for me. Mr. Davis, any issues with that date?
What date is it?
June the 28th.
8:30 in the morning.
No objection.
All right, sir, thank you. Then June 28 it is. It's a bench trial, the same connection that you used today. We will continue a personal bond, means you do not have to pay any money, but you must connect on June 28, 8:30 in the morning. Any questions, Mr. Dupree or Mr. Davis?
No, Your Honor. Your Honor. Oh, Mr. Davis, do you have a question?
Was that all 4 tickets?
All
Yeah.
6 tickets.
Okay, great.
All right, sir, you may disconnect from the hearing. We'll see you on June 28. Are we ready with Mark Downs?
Thank you.
Case number SP 120988842, Mark Anthony Downs. This is the date and time for pretrial. The charge is no insurance. Also, count 3 of that same ticket, driver's license suspended. If Mark Anthony Downs is in the virtual courtroom, please
Yes.
say your name for the record.
Mark Downs, Mark
Thank you.
Anthony Downs.
Thank you, Mr. Downs. Who's representing Mr. Downs? Mr.
Harry
Roth.
Baughman, P55052, on behalf of the defendant. Your Honor, he's going to waive rights and plead guilty pursuant to a recommendation He and I have discussed that in the confidential breakout room together. He knows he's not going to have a trial. He's resolving these matters by way of plea today. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bachman. What is the plea?
The plea is that the defendant would plead guilty to the driving while license suspended charge, Your Honor. That would be count 2. Thereafter, that count would be reduced to failure to display a valid driver's license as 0-point offense. And count 3, the no insurance count, would here be dismissed on my stipulation to probable cause, which I give here now on behalf of the defendant.
Okay, one correction. The docket has driver's while license suspended count as count 3. Is that erroneous? Is it count 2 or something else? The docket shows it as being count 3.
And Your Honor, yes, for the driver's license suspended, Tamika Horn on behalf of the city, it is there was a count 1 to this, which was a no registration civil infraction, if I recall. That is currently in default.
Okay, so count 2 is being dismissed. Thank you, Ms. Horn.
Yes, Your Honor.
Pursuant to the offer to count 3, which is the driver's license suspended being amended to failure to display, correct?
Correct, Your Honor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr.
Your Honor, may I just
Mr.
make one point of clarification?
Sure.
Are you incorporating by reference that civil infraction today, Ms. Horn, in your offer today?
If you make a motion, the people will consider.
I will make a motion to set aside default. It happens at a part of the same transaction and occurrence as the instant cases, Your Honor, for which the defendant was capious. So we'd ask respectfully if you would set aside that default and make it a part of an ask respectfully if the prosecutor would make that a part of today's plea offer.
Is Madam Prosecutor objecting to that motion?
No objection, Your Honor, to the count 1 being set aside, and thereafter the people will move to dismiss.
Thank you so much.
Order that count is set aside. So the default on count 1 is set aside. That count is reinstated. The people have a motion to dismiss count 1. That motion is granted. And we are proceeding with the plea to the amended charge on count 3 of failure to display, correct?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Downs, you have
Yes.
heard the representation of your lawyer. Are you in agreement with that representation?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Downs, were you advised of your right to a trial?
Not
No.
really.
You were.
Yeah, I just having a hard time understanding, that's all.
Mr. Baughman, I know you always do this. Could you have possibly not done this?
You remember when I asked you if you wanted to resolve the case today,
Oh, yes.
right? And you indicated that you would, and I said to you that in order to do that, you would waive your right to have a trial.
Oh, yes, okay, yeah. That's what she asked me, yes.
Right. And do you remember me saying, okay, so the judge or the jury is not going to decide the case. The lawyers aren't going to argue against each other over who's right and who's wrong. And the prosecutor won't have the burden of showing you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. You won't have a right to remain silent, that you were going to waive those rights. Do you remember we talked about that?
Yes, sir.
So that's what we're talking about. You know, you're going to waive those rights here today to take advantage of the recommendation we've talked about, right?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Baughman.
Sorry about
Now,
that, Your
I'm
Honor.
going to ask you that question again, Mr. Downs. Were you
Okay.
advised that you have the right to a trial?
Yes.
And sir, you understand that if you were to have a trial, normally that trial would take place inside the 36th District Court. But because of the pandemic, the courthouse is closed to the public. And so you have agreed to participate on the Zoom technology today. Is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Downs, did you have an opportunity to speak to your attorney about all of your rights?
Yes.
Sir, did anyone threaten you, force you, or promise you anything in exchange for your plea?
No, Your Honor.
Are you pleading guilty of your own free will?
Yes, I am.
And so you understand that by pleading guilty, you will be waiving or giving up your right to a trial.
Yes, Your Honor.
And sir, knowing that you're giving up your right to a trial, you wish to go forward with the guilty plea, is that right?
Yes.
Mr. Downs, please raise your right hand and be sworn. Sir, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth to the best of your knowledge and belief?
Yes.
Mr. Downs, you may lower your hand, sir. On the date, the time, and the location indicated in the ticket ending in 098843, were you driving a motor vehicle in the city of Detroit?
Yes.
Were you stopped by a police officer?
Yes, I was.
Did that officer ask you for a valid driver's license?
Yes, he did.
Sir, was your driver's license suspended at the time?
Yes, but it should not have been, because I was a victim of identity theft, and came to find out it was my nephew. And in 1999, they I went to court, 36th district. The judge, because the birthday that the person gave was 5/5/1972, and my birthday is 4/14/1972. But I knew that had to be my nephew because that's his birthday. We only 3 weeks apart. And I explained that to the judge, but she said it doesn't matter. As far as I'm concerned, you got 2 birthdays. So I said, fine. And at the time, yes, and at the time I was
Mr.
there.
Downs, would you allow me to interrupt you, please? I'd like you to say less, only on the as your attorney. May
Okay.
I bother the witness with respect to failure to display, Your Honor?
Sure, go ahead.
So, Mr. Downs, you will admit that you were driving a motor vehicle in the city of Detroit on the date and at the time in question. Is that correct?
Yes,
And you were asked to display a valid driver's license, but you did not do that on that date. Is that correct?
correct. Just state ID.
I am
Okay.
satisfied with the factual basis, Your Honor. Thank you.
The court will accept the guilty plea being satisfied with the factual basis. The court will also accept the recommendation to amend the charge to failure to display. Now, I've also heard in the interim, Mr. Downs' explanation of what happened on that date and the identity theft accusation. Madam Prosecutor, is there any reason to disbelieve that the credibility of that representation?
Your Honor, the people would have a neutral opinion about that. From the dates that just from what I gather, that this issue may have happened. I think there's been some time, and I think it's at some point from that point to today, you have to renew your license every 4 years. So at some point, you would be on notice that you can't renew your license.
And were you, Mr. Downs? You didn't renew your license. When did you find out that there was this identity theft issue?
I had found this out back in what was it, 96, 97, somewhere in there. And they had sentenced me to 31 days of community service, and I completed the program, and
Okay.
I went back to court, and I gave the judge my certificate, and she awarded me my license back. She said, you got your license back, but you have 2 points on them. But the only issue that I ran into was that my court-appointed lawyer or the judge did not let me know that I supposedly had stopped at the clerk's desk to get clearances for the tickets that was in my name that caused me to get my license suspended. And by me not driving at the time, and I had valid ID, I wasn't worried about it because the judge said I had my license back. So I wasn't really, too pressed.
Well, I can't. Okay, let me stop you now. I don't know if the judge told you you had your license back. The judge doesn't know that. The judge has no information about your license. That is the Secretary of State's sole authority. So I could not, if you asked me today if you were eligible to get your license back, I could not tell you that because judges don't have that information. Only the Secretary of State can tell you whether you're eligible to get your license back. But I was just trying to make some determination about costs and fines in this matter. Prosecutor's already given you 0 points. Now listen, 0 points on this ticket. It has been amended to failure to display. That's as good as it gets in terms of a reduction in the charge.
Okay.
$140 is your fine. And there is a mandatory reinstatement fee of $45. So $285 is the fine. Normally the time frame is 30 days to pay. Are you able to pay that $285 within 30 days?
May the 1st, I'll be able to, because I'm on disability. So
So May the 1st.
yes.
Okay, I'm gonna give you 45 days. That gives you a little extra time, 45 days to pay. And you can pay that online, 36districtcourt.org, or on the DivDat app. Now, I do not know whether you're eligible to get your license reinstated. You must ask the Secretary of State that question, but you will have to pay this fine, but the charge was reduced. So it was amended rather. It was amended. So you have no points, but $285 is the fine on this charge. Please go to the Secretary of State and get your license reinstated before you drive again, Mr. Downs, okay?
Yes, Your Honor.
Don't tell anybody the judge told you your license was back.
I swear, Your Honor, I swear that's what she said, Your Honor. She said, I award you your license back, but you just got 2 points on them. I swear that's them are exact words.
I don't know who that judge was, but I'm not telling you that. I know how to stay in my lane.
Okay.
All right, sir, you may disconnect from the hearing. Thank you.
Okay, you have a blessed day.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else have ready for the live stream or have any questions? Mr.
For the
Bachman,
defendant, Your Honor, thank you.
Madam Prosecutor.
Nothing further.